Welcome, dear viewers, to the most recent seed haul. These are seeds that I bought from Prairie Moon Nursery. They are native plants, almost all perennials, I think. And this video is going to be chock full of information about them, pictures and native range maps and all the details that you need, and a little bit about why I want them in my garden. Most of these photos have come from Prairie Moon Nursery's website. So feel free to go and take a look at that. And I think you'll be able to tell the difference between my reading voice and my conversational voice. I am going to read you bits about these plants from Prairie Moon's website, so the blurbs that they have. Uh, so you don't have to do it. um, and also, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them from my perspective and why I want them in my garden. And I think you'll be able to tell the difference. Anyway, just upfront heads up. Okay, with that, let's jump right in. Delphinium tricorn, dwarf larkspur. Shorter and sooner to bloom than other delphinium, dwarf larkspur adds beauty to early spring with plentiful blue-purple spurred flowers. It is a true spring ephemeral. It will grow and bloom early and then fade into dormancy by early summer. Long-tongued bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies are visitors to the blossoms. Full, part shade or shade, medium wet to medium soil. 12 inches tall, blooms April, May, and June, blue flowers. You might see a theme today in that I am looking for a lot of early spring bloomers. This is one, blooming early. It's not locally native to me, but I'm going to try it out and see how it goes. I do have a lot of shade, part shade areas in my yard, so anything that's a spring bloomer that will take part shade is an excellent choice for me. The flowers are beautiful. The foliage is equally beautiful. It might be difficult to get established. We'll see. I think I'll put this one along my driveway wall. Viola Eriocarpa. In the early spring, tiny yellow flowers with purple veining on lower petals bloom atop the leafy heart-shaped stems. Stems can grow up to a foot tall. Flowers can bloom as early as March. The leaves of this plant are smooth, as its common name suggests. Butterflies commonly find themselves taking part in the pollination process, as these flowers tend to draw them in. Viola eocarpa is one of the larval host plants for the Edwards fritillary, the Great Spangled fritillary, the Coronis fritillary, and the variegated fritillary. Likes part sun, medium wet to medium soils, height 6 inches. Bloom time April, May, and June. Flower color yellow. I love a violet. I've got a number of native volunteers in my yard already. Common blue. So there's the purple color. There's also a white with sort of a purple throat, which is really pretty. I've added to this seeds that I've bought that are pink blooming and also sort of a different sort of purpley blooming one. In addition to the really pretty flowers in the spring, all violets, they also have really beautiful foliage that lasts throughout the year and makes a lovely ground cover, and is really forgiving of conditions, sun, shade, whatever. It really will just be happy. Thalictrum dioicum, early meadow rue. Early meadow rue showcases precious little flowers in the early spring. The broccoli-like clusters of buds burst open before or just as the first batch of foliage begins to unfurl. Early meadow rue is renowned for its fine, attractive foliage. The gently lobed leaves are held aloft on slim, ruddy stems, creating a lacy mound throughout the growing season that provides simple but unique interest. Partial shade, full shade. Medium wet, medium to medium dry soil. 2 feet in height. Blooms April and May. Flowers are green. Another shady spring bloomer. I'm actually growing this one more for the foliage than the blooms, although the blooms are nice too. Uh, I started some a couple of years ago, and they are establishing that they did come back. They are growing in population. So I'm excited to be able to add to them. I'd like a much larger clump, so I am trying to get some more growing. Look at those leaves. Aren't they cool? I love it. Phlox maculata, wild sweet William. Wild Sweet William blooms throughout the early summer in a palette of soft pinks. The tubular flowers fan out and open to five petite overlapping petals that hummingbirds find irresistible. These upright plants will typically showcase stacks of blooms, creating cylindrical pastel plume. Drastically tapered leaves are a rich, glossy green. Phlox maculata can be distinguished from other phlox by the purplish spotted or streaked markings on the main stem. This plant requires a moderate amount of soil moisture with good drainage and plenty of organic material. As long as its roots are kept cool and moist, Sweet William will do well in full sun to part shade. This one is rarely found in the wild due to habitat degradation and destruction. Perennial, full sun to part sun, medium wet to medium soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms June, July, and August. Pink flowers. This one is also going to go in my driveway wall garden, I think. The flowers on this are just stunning. It does need more moisture than you might think, but it doesn't want heavy soils. It needs good draining, and it needs some moisture, especially in the summer. But I mean, like, look at it. It's so pretty. Um, yeah, I'm excited to try it out. I've never grown this before, so it's all new to me. Phlox divaricata, wild blue phlox. This is a phlox for shade or partial shade and medium to drier soils. Wild blue phlox is rhizomatous and will spread slowly but steadily. The flowers atop sticky stems are slightly fragrant and range in color from pale blue to lavender to violet. Dame's rocket, an invasive non-native plant in the mustard family, is often confused as being native phlox. It blooms about the same time. Perennial, part sun to shade, medium wet to medium dry soil, 12 inches tall, blooms April, May, and June, color blue. This phlox is equally beautiful, although not as tall. This is more of a mounding, sort of leans towards creeping. It's not a creeping phlox, however, it will make sort of mats, dense mats over time. It spreads. So a nice ground cover for this one. Uh, Likes shade, likes moisture, but well draining soil. Look at those blue flowers. Like that is just I can't even. I hope this gets really well established in my yard. I'm just really excited to be able to see these in the spring. Oxalis violacea, violet wood sorrel. Violet wood sorrel is a low-lying, 4-inch tall, shy native with small bell-shaped violet flowers that become white with greenish lines near the blossom's throat. Leaves and blooms both open up to the sun, the latter exposing bright yellow anthers and then fold in with shade. 3 oval heart leaflets comprise each leaf. Native bees love this plant, which prefers well-drained soils. It will spread readily from bulb offshoots that form small colonies in a short amount of time. A perennial, fuller part sun, medium dry to dry soil, 4 inches tall, blooms April, May, and June. Flowers are purple. I think they're a little bit pink, actually, in my opinion. I love this wood sorrel. We have a lot of the common wood sorrel here that's got the yellow flowers. The pink variety is more common south of us, but does grow here. And I do have some established in one spot in my yard, and I'm hoping to increase that. These flowers are just absolutely as stunning in person as they are in this picture, and the leaves on them, the foliage is really nice too. So when it stops flowering, it's still a nice looking plant. It's really a small, low growing plant with this like delicate foliage and delicate flower, and it always brings me joy when I see it. Mertensia virginica, Virginia bluebells. One of the most beautiful species of spring ephemeral are the Virginia bluebells. These lovely plants are in the family Boraginaceae, which makes them relatives of other familiar species like forget-me-not, lungwort, and comfrey. Bluebells enjoy rich yet well-drained soils where they can form large colonies over time. Growing fast, the flower shoots quickly give way to some of the most beautiful flowers east of the Mississippi. The flowers start off pink and gradually turn over to their famous shade of light blue as they mature. Bees, especially female bumblebees, that fly in early spring, will be seen visiting these flowers. Only the largest bees have the ability to push their way up the tube. The real champions of bluebell pollination are the butterflies and moths. It is stunning to watch them perch delicately on the rim of the flower. A colony of bluebells is truly an amazing sight to behold. The blooms will last for many weeks in early spring and will go dormant by midsummer. Perennial, ephemeral. Part shade or shade, medium wet to medium soil. Grows 2 feet tall. Blooms April and May. Bloom colors are blue. I first fell in love with bluebells many years ago. The Brooklyn Botanic Garden has a bluebell forest. So it's like an oak forest. It's got just the ground is just covered in bluebells. And in the spring, it is just a delight to look at. Now, those are Spanish bluebells. And these ones here, these are Virginia bluebells, but these do the same thing. So you can definitely find pictures of these where they just cover the ground in a wooded area, and it's just spectacular in the spring. And I actually think these Virginia bluebells, these native ones, are even more beautiful. They have these, the buds on them are sort of pink before, and then when they open, they turn this sort of lovely blue color. Um, I am hoping to get these established in sort of a wide patch so that I have that sort of blue carpet in the spring. Gentianopsis crenita, fringed gentian. Fringed gentian matures to just 12 inches tall and has bright blue to purple flowers. Fringed gentian prefers wetter soil conditions and grows best in full sun. Most gentians bloom late, August, September, and October. This plant is now rare due to habitat loss. As with all threatened native plants, fringed gentian should never be picked or transplanted. Flowers open on sunny days, but generally remain closed on cloudy days. Individual plants live for only 1 or 2 years, but they do reseed when given the proper conditions. Ants are highly attracted to Gentianopus crenata because they like the taste and crave the nutrition of the nectar. So, in response, some specialists believe that the fringe on the petals provides a measure of protection. Biennial, full sun, wet to medium wet soil, 12 inches tall, August, September, and October blooming. Flowers are blue. I am excited to grow these again this year. I winter sowed a bunch last year, got a lot of really good germination, planted them in the ground. They're still very small. And I'm hoping that they will grow big for me this year and flower. Could be this year, could be next year. But these flowers are just incredible looking. I can't wait to see them in person. Um, I I think they're phenomenal flowers, and I wanna have more of them. These that I'm growing this year are gonna go along my street front. I think the ones that I grew last year I put in my driveway bed, so I could keep a closer eye on them. But I definitely want to showcase this flower right along the street. If if you're looking for native plants that are beautiful, I think this definitely hits the spot. Allium canadensis, wild garlic. Wild garlic is a hardy plant, first sending out tender, strappy leaves and then blooming throughout the late spring and early summer. Topset bulbs form before the flowers, ranging from creamy to pale green to deep maroon. The white and pink blossoms are almost an afterthought, streaking out beyond the knobby bulblets and creating an airy starburst effect. This is a very versatile plant, adapting to all but the wettest soil conditions. Although it does prefer more sun, it grows just fine in the shade. Wild garlic may not flower in deep shade, in which case the plant will continue to form aerial bulblets, which is the primary way wild garlic reproduces. The seeds that we sell are not seeds at all, but actually the top set bulbs. Wild garlic attracts hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees. Smaller bees such as onion bees, masked bees, mason bees, and plasterer bees are important pollinators for this plant. Perennial, full, partial, or shade, medium wet to dry soil, 18 inches tall, blooms May, June, and July. Bloom color pink. I bought some wild garlic seeds from Prairie Nursery a couple of years ago, and I don't think I got bulblets. I think I actually got seeds. So I am excited to try this out in bulblet form. Um, I did not have great germination with seeds, although I did get a couple of plants and I put them in, and they're very small, but they're still growing, even now. And I don't know, they look like really pretty little plants. At least in pictures. I don't have them flowering yet, but the grassy texture is really nice to have in a garden bed. And these little flowers look like little sparkling stars. So it would be great to have a nice dense patch of these, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to add to the ones that I already have. I mean, look at those! Look at those pretty little flowers. They're awesome. Um, Anyway, if I get some up and flowering, I'll be able to get my own bulblets and grow those. So wish me luck with that. Allium cernum, nodding onion. Nodding onion is renowned for the unique orientation of its flowers. The umbrils face downward, nodding towards the ground. Pom-poms of star-like blossoms dangle from each hooked stem, blooming in shades of cream, pale pink, and light lavender. This tendency gives pollinating bees a priority because they are not fazed by gathering nectar and pollen while hanging upside down, but it does deter many other insects. The nodding habit may also protect the nectar from the elements. Grows best in full or partial sun and a variety of moist soil conditions. If those needs are met, this plant is very hardy, even doing well in damp clay. The plant is easy to grow and will gradually spread by seed and bulb and offshoots in suitable sites. Plant in mass for a stunning display. Perennial, full or part sun, medium wet to medium dry soil, 18 inches tall, blooms July and August, purple. Blooms purple. Not locally native in my area. The one that I just described previously, the wild garlic, is locally native. But this one is just so pretty, and I love its little upturned flowers. And I want to put some in my I have a mixed native and cultivated um, garden bed along my driveway wall. So I'm trying to get some established in there. I definitely have established plants from previous years. I have not seen any of them flower yet, hopefully this year. But I want to add to that patch. So I bought some more seeds. We'll see how it grows. Biden's cernua, nodding burr marigold. The bright sunflower-like yellow blossoms of Biden cernua grace full sun wet sites in summer months and September. The fruiting heads tend to nod. Nodding burr marigold is an annual. It completes its life cycle during one season, but will reseed. Sticktights are the burr-like seeds of some Biden species, so named because they stick to clothing, shoestrings, etc. Other common names in use: nodding beggar's tick, burr marigold, and sticktight. An annual, full sun, wet to medium wet soil, 3 feet tall, blooming June, July, August, and September, yellow flowers. I'm not very familiar with growing Bidens, although I do have there's a variety of Bidens that has volunteered itself along the north end of my property, along the woods. I will probably try to establish these kind of in a similar area, maybe at the other corner, the far corner from it. Um, I did identify which species that was, which variety that was, but I don't remember. Anyway, these do have the seeds that uh, calling them stick tight really is apt. The seeds will definitely attach themselves to you. So put them somewhere out of the way. That's my plan. But the cheery little yellow flowers, I'm just really excited to add to the garden. Ceanothus americanus, New Jersey tea shrub. The New Jersey tea blooms in a spectacular display of fragrant white flowers from June to August. Clusters of tiny blooms pop open in nearly synchronized explosions, covering the mounded shrub. Growing between 2 and 3 feet tall, this sturdy shrub flaunts striking green foliage that provides visual interest even when not in bloom. The rounded, compact shape lends itself equally well to both traditional landscape design and naturalized pollinator garden aesthetics. Ceanothus americanus is a nitrogen-fixing species that prefers medium dry soil but can tolerate rocky conditions. It blooms best in part to full sun. An important host plant for the spring azure and summer azure caterpillars, the New Jersey tea shrub also attracts bees and hummingbirds. Its seeds provide food for wild turkeys and quail. Perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms June, July, and August. Flowers are white. I really, really want these shrubs all over my garden. They are beautiful plants. The flowers are beautiful, beautiful foliage, wonderful, and very forgiving of soil moisture. And they part sun and shade is great. Um, and they don't grow too big, which is also great too. Uh, if you have a more traditional looking garden, this is a wonderful native plant to have. Uh, it will fit in really well. It looks like it could be a cultivated plant that you could buy anywhere. I did grow these 2 years ago. I have a couple of very small ones establishing now, and I am growing more because they're wonderful. Conocolinum coelestium, mist flower. Mist flower reaches up 2 feet in height with downy purplish branching stems in moist or low savanna settings. Its opposing large toothed leaves are oval to triangular. Resembling a lovely blue purple fog when found in dense stands, the disc flowers form in clusters of 35 to 70 at the tops of stems in late summer and autumn, attracting late season butterflies. It will spread, so it should be planted with caution in a small landscape. Insects that feed on the Eupatorium species, the bonesets, may also use mistflower as a host plant. These species include Clymene moth, lined ruby tiger moth, and three-lined flower moth. A perennial, likes part sun, medium wet to medium dry soil, grows 2 feet tall, blooms September and October, flowers are blue. These are not locally native here, but they are a wildflower from my childhood. They are widespread across the South, so I am familiar with these. They are beautiful, especially like mixed in with other plants in like large patches. So I'm really excited to try to get some established here. They also really do support the wildlife and the ecosystem really nicely. I mean, look at that. Look at that pretty plant. And it takes shade. Yay! You know how I am looking for shade things in my garden right now. If I get good germination, I'm going to try to get some. I'm going to try to plant some near my Joe Pye weed on my driveway wall garden, as well as a couple of other spots around the yard. Cryptotaena canadensis, or honeywort. For about a month in midsummer, honeywort, a shade-loving perennial, produces tiny white flowers splayed in the compound umbels that are characteristic of the carrot family. Like many plants in the carrot family, honeywort is a host plant for the black swallowtail butterfly. The blossoms are not fragrant or showy, but they are very attractive to a variety of native bees, flies, and solitary wasps. Young leaves and stems are edible and resemble the flavor of parsley. The root and seed are edible as well. In conditions that are ideal, it can be aggressive. In one case, it reportedly outcompeted garlic mustard and became a nuisance in its own right. A perennial, likes shade, medium wet to medium dry soil, 2 feet tall, blooms June, July, August, and September. Blooms are white. I know very little about this plant. I haven't grown it. I don't have a lot of experience with it. Um, It does like deep shade, which is why I've selected it. I have some spots that have a lot of deep shade, and I really want to get some good plants in there. And this one should be one of them. Also, I'm really excited at how supportive it is. It's so funny that like a lot of these native plants that don't have the really showy flowers are actually incredibly supportive of wildlife and the ecosystem and the pollinators. Um, but, like, I love its little sparkly quality, and the big wide leaves will be really nice in a shady area. Delphinium exaltum, tall larkspur. This larkspur has much later bloom time than the other Delphinium species. It's blooming in July when others, like dwarf larkspur, are already dormant. Many shades of purple, from a deep violet to pale lavender, can appear in one small population of plants, as represented in the photos. These tubular flowers are a favorite of hummingbirds and bumblebees. The palmate leaves are large and attractive. It has a limited native range and does not respond to hot humid climates beyond zone 8. This plant is poisonous to herbivores like deer and rabbits, so it makes a nice choice in a landscape. A perennial, full sun, medium to medium dry soil, 4 feet tall, July, August bloom time. Flowers are purple. So I have another delphinium. I talked about it earlier, the dwarf delphinium. This one is a taller version, growing up to 6 feet, which is amazing. Apparently, it needs some protection from the wind, so I'll have to try to figure out where that's going to go. But like, look at these flower spikes. Oh, it's just so cool. I can't wait to try it out. It's not locally native, just like the other one, but I'm really excited to try it. Anyway, Desmodium glutinosum, pointed tick trefoil. Desmodium glutinosum is a leguminous plant found in the woodland or wood's edge situation. The color is a surprisingly clear pink tone that is highly visible on a woodland walk. The leaves are crowded together mostly in the middle of the plant and spray outwards in a loose whorl. A perennial, part shade or shade, medium to medium dry soil, grows 2 feet tall, blooms June, July, and August. Bloom color pink. Another shade loving plant. Um, this one I have grown already, and I'm working on establishing a patch. I want to continue to add to that patch, also in my sort of deep shade woodland area. Um, the sparkly quality of these pink flowers is what draws me to it, and also its big, bold foliage. This is a relative of the showy tick trefoil, which I also have, well established, with bold, beautiful pink flowers, and they're just lovely. These plants are lovely. Dodecatheon amethystium, amethyst shooting star. Amethyst shooting star produces a dramatic cluster of five-parted purple to pink-colored blossoms. Fused petals face downwards to produce a tube ringed with maroon, yellow, and white. Unlike its relative, Midland shooting star, this one survives in very limited native range, with populations confined to the steep limestone bluffs in the upper Midwest driftless region, in addition to a small area of the Appalachians. Seeing amethyst shooting star in the wild is rare, and the small, fragmented wild populations are at risk of becoming endangered. So it is important that we treasure this species and the habitats it naturally exists in so future generations can enjoy its beauty. Perennial ephemeral, full part shade or shade, medium wet to medium dry soil, grows 12 inches tall, blooms April and May, bloom color purple. Another stunning spring bloomer. Um, Even though they're really rare in the wild, apparently these do really well in cultivation in cultivated gardens. So I'm hoping that I can establish these. They're just like they're not locally native to me, but I saw these on Prairie Moon's website, and I just I have to try this out. They're so cool looking. Dodecatheon medea, Midland shooting star. The early spring plants tend to get the most attention because we so need to see flowers at that time of year. Shooting stars deserve the acclaim. They are a true spring ephemeral of the prairie. They are completely done with their season and go dormant by midsummer. They have a beautiful mahogany-colored seed pods that are often not noticed because of other tall species that have overtopped them by that time. Midland shooting star can become very robust with a few dozen flowers coming out of each plant, especially in moist, rich soils. Wide color variation naturally occurs in any population of Midland shooting star, from purple to pale pink to almost white. This species establishes well and will reseed itself in semi-dry, rocky situations or in the shade or shrub of a small tree. Perennial ephemeral, full to part sun, medium wet to medium dry soil, grows 12 inches tall, blooms April, May, and June. Flowers are pink. I'm planning to plant these two shooting star plants together in my driveway garden. I think that it'll be really nice to have some color up in that area early in the spring. And then, before the rest of the big plants fill in as the spring and summer come along. But again, these flowers are just ridiculous. I mean, like, look at how cool they are. Drymocalis arguta, or potentala, prairie cinquefoil. Ranging from 1 to 3 feet tall, Prairie cinquefoil features crowded rosettes of attractive white flowers that can border on cream or light yellow. With both the stem and the leaves covered in fine hairs, the plant takes on an overall light green color. It prefers dry soils, even with a gravel, sand, or clay component. A long central taproot makes it very drought tolerant. It spreads somewhat by fibrous roots extending from this taproot. The seeds are very small and can be distributed by the wind, but the plant is not overly aggressive. Perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, 2 feet tall, blooms June, July, August, and September. Flowers are white. I have one plant that I started several years ago, well established in my health spot, the area between the road and the driveway. And it's lovely. I love it. I love the texture of the foliage. I love its height. I love everything for the spot that it's in. It's very hardy. So I'm growing some more so that I can put some more in there. Uh, the flowers look a lot like strawberry flowers, and the foliage looks a little bit like strawberry flowers too. And I can see my native strawberries on the hill in the shade up behind it, and the two together kind of play off of each other. I think that's really neat. I've got another packet of seeds that I bought, Avens, coming up that looks similar to this. It likes more moist soil, but I'm hoping that I can put them nearby enough each other that you can see them together because I think they're really kind of neat looking and might play off of each other a little bit. Anyway, Eubia macrophylla, big-leafed aster. Big-leaved aster gets its common name from its large heart-shaped foliage, which has coarse toothed edges reaching 8 inches across. It is often planted for these large leaves as shaded ground cover rather than for the sometimes sparse fall flowers. Flowering stems reach 1 to 2 feet in height, topped with blossoms with 9 to 20 thin white violet rays surrounding a yellow center. This plant is common to the northern woodlands where it often forms dense ground cover, spreading by rhizomes. A perennial, part shade or shade, medium wet to dry soil, 12 inches tall, blooms August, September, and October. Flowers are white. This one is definitely going in the woodland shade garden. Uh, it's perfect for that area, and it has really nice, broad, heart-shaped basal leaves that make this a striking plant even when it's not blooming. Um, I think I might put this on my. I've got a bit of a hill that I'm trying to retain the soil on in my woodland garden area, and I think this might be a really good spot for this one. The rhizomatous quality of the root system should help hold that hill really nicely, and it'll be beautiful all the time. Filipendula rubra, Queen of the Prairie. Queen of the Prairie heralds fragile sprays of tiny pink buds in early summer. These pearlescent clusters burgeon out and burst open from bottom to top in an abundance of little flowers attended by fanfare of filaments. Floating above the surrounding plants, the cotton candy colored plumes look exactly like the favorite carnival food. Color saturation often increases as the flowers mature, ranging from the faintest of pinks to rich, regal magentas. These blooms ascend from lovely, deep lobed foliage that provide an attractive backdrop after the show stopping flowers are spent. Deadheading does not signal for more flower production, so enjoy them while they last. The stems can sometimes be a ruddy red. This is the flowering jewel of any consistently moist site and requires a great deal of territory to reign over. Each queen of the prairie plant can grow quite large and will colonize optimal sites. This plant prefers full sun, but appreciates some shade in particularly hot, dry climates. Stems may be weak and tend to lean in less than sunny conditions. Queen of the Prairie produces an abundance of pollen for native bees and other pollinators, but the myriad of flowers does not provide any nectar. It is considered deer resistant. This is a one-of-a-kind native plant considered rare throughout much of its historic range. Perennial, full sun, wet to medium wet soil, grows to 5 feet tall, blooms June, July, and August. Flowers are pink. This is a tall stunner of a plant. It's definitely going along my street front. I'm excited to be able to include it in the garden. These big puffs of pink flowers just seem really visually attractive. And the broad leaves along its stem are going to be a good complement to a number of the small leaved tall prairie plants that I have along my street front. Gentiana puberulenta, downy gentian. Downy gentian is often found growing in short clumps, 12 inches, in areas that are minimally disturbed. Downy gentian prefers drier soils with full sun to part shade. It is always a delight to see the relatively large deep blue violet flowers bloom during the late summer months of August into early October when the golden colors dominate. Flowers of downy gentian open in the morning and then close at night, or they may remain closed during cloudy weather. It can survive an autumn frost, but does not do well in extreme heat or prolonged drought. This flower is also pollinator friendly and will attract many types of bees late in the season. Perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, 12 inches tall, blooms August, September, and October. Flowers are blue. This is a short plant with dramatic blue flowers. I don't have any experience with this one. I do have some other gentian type plants in the garden. I'm excited to try this one out, see how it does. I think I'm going to plant it in the street front. Geranium maculatum, or wild geranium. Wild geranium is one of the species that you just can't pass up. Native to much of the eastern North America, it never disappoints. It has lovely dissected leaves, beautiful pinkish purple flowers, and it readily spreads, forming stunning patches that everything from bees to butterflies can't resist. Mostly found in woodlands in the wild, it does just as well in full sun. Interestingly, Geranium maculatum has a unique way of spreading its seeds. Each seed is packed into a pod, and the pods are attached to a structure that resembles a crane's bill. As the bill dries, it literally catapults the seeds away from the parent plant. Each seed has a small tail like structure attached to it that bends and moves in response to changes in humidity, which helps to drive the seed into the soil where it can safely germinate. A perennial, full sun, partial sun, or shade, medium to medium dry soil, 12 inches tall, blooms April, May, June, and July. Flowers are purple. I love this wild geranium. I have some already. Started from some from seed several years ago, and I've got a nice establishing bit beneath my common milkweed. Um, it's a good looking plant. The leaves are really nice looking. The flowers are beautiful, and the seed pods are really neat. That sort of springy, flingy thing that they do is kind of nifty. I would put this everywhere. It's very versatile in terms of sun or shade, medium soil. I'm gonna just have it in as many places as possible. Geum alepicum, yellow avens. Yellow avens is a part of the rose family. It can be identified by looking for a hairy stem and five small yellow petals. There can either be one or several flowers on the hairy stalks of this plant. The leaves of yellow avens will remain green year-round, making it a plant that will provide some interest to your garden even in winter. It thrives in wet and moist soils, so it would make a good addition to a rain garden or a wetland with good drainage. Popular use for yellow avens is in pots and as a border plant. It is a perennial, likes full to part sun, wet to medium soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms June, July, and August. Bloom color is yellow. This is another plant that is brand new to me. I've never even heard of this. Um, but I'm excited to try it out. I like the look of it. This is the one that I said reminded me of the cinquefoil from earlier. So even though they like different soil moisture, I think I'm going to try to put them somewhere where I can see them both. Helianthus divericus, woodland sunflower. Woodland sunflower is especially suitable for dry, open woodlands or savannas. It resembles a number of other species of sunflower, and some of these species hybridize naturally, making identification difficult. The plants are rhizomatous and spread vigorously, and therefore may not be suitable for small planting areas. Perennial, part shade to shade, medium to dry soil, 4 feet tall, July, August, and September blooming. Flowers are yellow. I think I'm gonna have this one and that big leaf aster in a similar location, in the same location. Again, this is a shade-loving plant with these big, bright, cheery yellow flowers. I think it'll be really nice, complemented, and since they're both sort of rhizomatous, I think they'll grow fine with each other. Pachyra aurea, golden ragwort. Golden ragwort has spreading, fibrous roots that produce rhizomes. In favorable growing conditions, plant colonies can often form. Golden ragwort prefers full sun to light shade and wet to medium soil moisture. Golden ragwort can tolerate low levels of seasonal flooding. Typical habitats include woodland borders, moist, shady savannas, shorelines, and deciduous woodlands. Compared with many other ragwort species, golden ragwort is more shade tolerant and can make a good native ground cover in the right situation as it spreads semi-aggressively by rhizomes. Golden ragwort blooms in late spring for about 3 weeks. Both the nectar and the pollen attract small bees, including little carpenter bees, cuckoo bees, and halcyon bees. The foliage is toxic to most mammalian herbivores, but sheep have been known to consume the plant. It is a perennial, full sun part or shade, wet to medium soil, 2 feet tall, blooms May and June. Bloom color is yellow. This one is definitely an aggressive spreader. Spreads by rhizomes. Um, if you have like Japanese knotweed or something, or garlic mustard, or some sort of um, an invasive plant coming into your yard, you can use this one to combat those. So, um, I'll try it out and see how it goes. Otherwise, it's a really lovely plant. Really pretty ground cover, nice leaves, pretty cheery yellow flowers. Great for the ecosystem. It will try to crowd out other plants though, so you've got to give it some space. Penstemon pallidus, pale beard tongue. Pale beard tongue likes drier soils, rocky gravel or sand, and blooms earlier than most other penstemons. The whole plant is covered in soft white hairs. Penstemon's tubular flowers are favorites of long-tongued bees such as bumblebees, carpenter bees, and mason bees. Deer and rabbits do not generally show much interest in penstemon species. The seeds are so tiny that they can be carried by the wind. Perennial, full to part sun, medium to dry soil, 12 inches tall, blooms May, June, and July with white flowers. Penstemons are bumblebee magnets, and let me tell you just how cute a bumblebee buttocks is sticking out the back of one of these flowers. It is just the cutest thing you have ever seen. Um, I don't have this particular variety yet in my garden, but I'm excited to include it. It'll take a little bit more shade than other penstemons, which is really kind of cool, so I've got some nice spots for that. Phaseolus polystachio, wild kidney bean. Sought after and edible, Phaseolus polystachios is a wild relative of the cultivated variety of lima beans. Wild kidney bean has smaller fruits but can be dried, stored, and cooked the same as the cultivated varieties. This is somewhat delicate perennial vine will climb if given support. When the seed pods are ripe, they will twist and expel the seeds. Sometimes known as thicket bean, it does prefer open thickets and woodland edges that have good drainage and are not heavily shaded. Perennial, full to part shade, medium to medium dry soil, grow to be 8 feet tall, vining. Bloom time July, August, and September. Bloom colors pink. If you follow my channel at all, you'll know that I don't just grow native plants, I also have lots of vegetables and food producing plants as well, and I'm excited that this one is both. Um, this provides beans that are edible, and it's a perennial, so it'll come back year after year, so it will survive the winter, and it is a native plant, so suited to the particular ecosystem here where I am. Um, I'm excited to try it out. I'm excited to see how it tastes, how it grows, and I'm looking forward to adding this one to my garden. Pulmonium reptans, Jacob's ladder. Like many spring blooming natives, the bloom time on Jacob's ladder is short but sweet. In the few short weeks in April or May that the flowers appear, the plant will be covered in blooms that range from shades of pink to blue. Jacob's ladder will grow in full sun if it has adequate moisture, but it prefers woodlands, almost full shade, and woodland edges, partial shade. A mature plant will only reach the height of 1 foot and is deer resistant. Perennial, full sun, part sun, or shade, medium wet to medium dry soil, grows 12 inches tall, blooms April, May, and June, flowers are blue. I've been wanting to grow this one for a little while. I really love the look of it, its foliage and its flowers. If you're new to native plant gardening, this might be a good one to start with. It grows in a variety of different locations, sun to shade, and it's um, medium moisture, so it should do well in a garden setting. It looks really beautiful, all planted together in a big bunch, and it blooms nice and early in the spring. So, not only good for us to look at because it's pretty, but also for the pollinators. Rexia virginica, Meadow Beauty. Virginia Meadow Beauty, or Handsome Harry, is typically found in acidic soils that are consistently moist. However, reportedly it will survive in higher pH soils, which may dry out for periods of time. It is one of the showier wildflowers, with a deep pink petal surrounded by long, slender, bright yellow anthers, which are curved like a sickle. The well attached pollen in each anther is released through a small pore at one end by buzz pollination. Solitary bumblebees must grab the flower and buzz it to agitate the anthers. Most often it grows in wet meadows, coastal plain marshes, sandy wetlands, and lake edges, pine woods, and roadside swales. Rexia species will establish successfully on open areas disturbed by recurrent burning. A perennial, full to part sun, wet to medium wet soil, grows 12 inches tall, blooms July, August, and September. Flowers are pink. I grew this one, winter sowed it 2 years ago, and it's gotten established in a really nice spot by my downspout in my garden, and it is a beautiful plant. It is really very pretty. It's small, which is nice, so I have it sort of near the house. It's not overpowering, and the colors on it are really cool. Um, and I have enjoyed it there so much that I want to see if I can get it to establish in a couple of other places. Um, it does turn a very pretty color in the fall too. It has a very pretty red fall foliage. Rudbeckia fulgida, orange coneflower. Orange coneflower will be the midsummer focal point for any landscape with its abundance of bold tangerine orange flowers. Cheery petals surround chocolate brown centers, forming brilliant buttons that festoon the neatly 2 to 3 feet mounded plants from July through September. The blooms are so plentiful they nearly block the forest green foliage from view. This is one of our favorite species to recommend to any planting because it maintains its structure and looks good all season long. It also provides great support to local pollinators and wildlife. Grows best in full sun to light shade with moderate soil moisture. Young plants benefit from constant moisture and good air circulation. Once established, the species can tolerate drier conditions. Although the root structures are rhizomatous, this plant spreads in well-mannered mounds. If that bushy appearance gets too big, it can easily be divided. Producing both nectar and pollen, this species supports a diverse number of minute pollinators, including native bees and small butterflies. Little moth caterpillars, like the blackberry looper, the wavy-lined emerald, will use this plant species as forage and a place of refuge. The wavy-lined emerald is also known as camouflage looper because its caterpillars adhere small pieces of plant material to their bodies, helping them to blend in with their environment. After the orange coneflower petals have dried out, songbirds will flock to devour the plentiful seed. A perennial, full sun or part sun, medium wet to medium dry soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms July, August, and September. Blooms are orange. I don't have any Rudbeckia in my garden at the moment, and that is definitely a severe failing on my part. So I am growing this one and another one this year. I'm going to rectify the problem. These are your classic North American wildflowers. They should have a spot in everyone's garden, in my opinion. Rudbeckia hirta, black-eyed Susan. These cheery yellow flowers boast chocolate brown centers waving above the hairy leaves. The plant is biennial and a classic pioneer species in new native plantings. They come in strong in the early years, but then succumb to longer lived perennial plants. They are prolific self seeders, though, so they'll appear in the garden for years to come. Incredibly drought tolerant, black eyed Susans are sure to please. For long lived perennial black eyed Susans, choose Rudbeckia subtomentosa. Black-eyed Susan is one of the larval host plants to the silvery checker spot. Its bright yellow flowers attract many different butterflies, moths, and bees. The plant is of high value to pollinators. A biennial, full or part sun, medium wet, medium or medium dry soil, grows 2 feet tall, blooms June, July, August, September, and October. Bloom color is yellow. I was looking at my garden last year and thinking that I really needed some black-eyed Susans. So I got this one and the one previous. Um, I can't wait to grow these. I loved these as a kid. Look at this field. Isn't that amazing? I loved these as a kid, and I really haven't grown them in my garden. I don't know why, but fixing it this year. Scrophularia lanceolata, early figwort. Figworts are nectar-rich plants. Perhaps they are not known for their beauty, but they are abundant in nectar. One of the best species for attracting butterflies, bees, or other insects and birds, especially the ruby-throated hummingbird. A close inspection of the flowers is needed to tell early figwort from late figwort, though, as their common name suggests, their flowering times rarely overlap. Early figwort blooms from May until July, whereas late figwort blooms from July until October. Each can obtain heights of well over 5 feet and will readily reseed in the right conditions. Preference is for light shade, but you will find it in open fields and ditches if there is dense vegetation surrounding the base of the plant. Figwort's beauty is hard to capture in photos. These are definitely plants best enjoyed close up and in person. Rarely available from most nurseries, planting these strange figworts will surely bring joy and novelty to any native landscape. Perennial, full sun, partial, and shade. Medium wet to dry soil. 5 feet tall. May, June, July. Bloom color red and green. I identified a very small annual figwort in my yard. It was just a volunteer. Um, and that really sort of turned me on to the variety of figworts. This one's a perennial, this one and the next one. Um, they are small, delicate, pretty little things that are covered covered in some of the smallest, most delicate looking pollinators you've ever seen. I'm really excited about growing this one. I know it's not a showstopper uh, in sort of a broad sense, but I am just so excited for it. I'm thrilled. Scrophularia marylandica, late figwort. Most are not aware that figworts are one of the best nectar species for attracting native butterflies, bees, and other insects, and birds, including the ruby-throated hummingbird. Large serrated leaves and sturdy stalks boast shiny reddish brown small flowers that appear to drip with nectar. Figworts are given a special rating by the Xeris Society because of their special value to native bees, recognized by pollination ecologists as attracting a large numbers of native bees, and supports conservation biological control, a plant that attracts predatory or parasitoid insects that prey upon pest insects. In the fall, the leaves and stalks will turn maroon, with teardrop-shaped seed pods filled with tiny seeds. Late figwort, also known as Maryland figwort, grows well in average garden soils, both on wet or dry sides, and thrives in full sun but tolerates up to 70% shade. Perennial, full sun, partial, or shade, medium to dry soil, 6 feet tall, blooms July, August, September, and October. Blooms, flowers are red and green. I'm going to be planting both the early and the late ones together in the same area. I think that I don't need to really distinguish between them too much for any reason. They like the same conditions. So I think that it'll be nice for sort of continuity of pollen and nectar for pollinators. Solidago gigantea, late goldenrod. Goldenrods are a diverse group of species, and some of them can be easily mistaken for each other. Late goldenrod, Solidago gigantea, is common to essentially moist or wet open ground. Occasionally, it is found on drier ground or in part shade. The stems of late goldenrod are smooth, waxy, and hairless below the inflorescence. Whatever your preference or situation may be, there is a goldenrod to suit all occasions. Sadly, goldenrods often get blamed for causing the dreaded hay fever. This is simply not true. Their pollen is quite large and sticky, so as to better adhere to the body of visiting insects. Because of this, goldenrod pollen cannot become airborne and can never make its way into your sinuses. We cannot stress how important goldenrods are on the landscape. Including them on your property will provide ecosystem services well into the fall when many other plant life is shutting down. Perennial, full sun, partial or shade, wet to medium soils, grows 6 feet tall, blooms August and September, flowers are yellow. I am dedicating myself over the next couple of years to being able to identify all of the different species of goldenrod that I encounter. Some of that is going to be me growing them on my own so that I can learn them pretty well from my own yard. Um, it's such a broad and important species, and I want to be able to look at whatever it is, whichever goldenrod that I'm seeing, and know which one it is. Um, anyway, I think that's important for my own personal knowledge of native plants. From year to year, I like to set goals for myself or challenge myself to learn a different thing about the plant world, the world outside my door. And this year it's going to be goldenrods. I did I did try to learn about how to identify sedges one year, and that was just really, really, really hard. So I should pick that up again at some point. It's really good exercise for one's brain, though. So Solidago nemoralis, old field goldenrod. This is an excellent plant for a difficult spot where little else will grow. Old field goldenrod likes full sun and dry soil, even poor, rocky clay slopes with little organic matter. The long, narrow inflorescence is somewhat wider in the middle and will nod down slightly when flowering for a month or so in the fall. Solidago nemoralis is one of the shortest goldenrods, reaching 2 feet at most. Other distinguishing features include small winged leaflets on the main stem and fuzzy white texture on the leaves and stem. It tends to bloom later in the fall than other goldenrods. Perennial, full sun or part sun, medium dry to dry soil, grows 2 feet tall, blooms August September, flowers are yellow. A goldenrod for every spot. I definitely have some dry, poor soil quality spots that I can put this one in. Solidago patula, round-leaved goldenrod. This perennial wildflower can be another great addition to add a pop of bright yellow in the fall to most areas. Roundleaf goldenrod has a light to almost purplish green central stem with alternating large leaves along its entirety, growing smaller as they ascend. The upper sides of the leaves are covered with stiff small hairs while the underside is hairless. Flowers of this plant are found in array and disc florets that give a messy, scattered appearance, but are very pretty with the green leaves complementing the strong, bold yellow color. Roundleaf goldenrod is a great attractor of long and short-tongued bees, solitary wasps, flies, and other insects that feast on the foliage as well as other parts of the plant. Perennial, likes full sun, partial and shade, medium wet to medium soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms July, August, September, and October, flowers yellow. I think I may have some of this volunteered in my garden, and part of what I'm doing is growing it so that I can compare. Solidago uliginosa, bog goldenrod. Bog goldenrod will develop a sturdy, upright stem, 2 to 5 feet tall, in medium to wet soils. The leaves are smooth and toothless and decrease in size farther up the smooth, hairless stem. The deep red stem color is often overlooked because of the perky yellow flowers that encircle the stalk with wand-like plumes. This wonderful species is low maintenance and resistant to deer while attracting butterflies and other pollinators. Perennial, full sun, partial in shade, wet to medium soil, 4 feet tall, blooms August and September, flower is yellow. This is one of my favorite looking goldenrods. This one and the blue stemmed goldenrod. They're just so different from other goldenrods. I really like it. I haven't had them grow enough to get tall to see them, but I have been trying to get this to grow. I've been germinating these seeds for the last couple of years. This will be my third year at winter sowing them, I think. So I hope that I can get some established. Solidago ulmifolia, elm-leaved goldenrod. Elm-leaved goldenrod is a tall but with yellow flowers bursting from a panicle located on the central stem. This plant is easily grown in well-drained soils that contain medium moisture. This woodland species thrives in dappled shade. Plants will tolerate dry soil once fully established. This plant is native to a large portion of North America, stretching from North Canada to southern Texas and Florida. Elm-leaf goldenrod is easy to grow from seed and can self-sow. Plants also spread through their rhizomes to form colonies. They are typically 1 to 4 feet tall, and their erect stems typically arch at the top. Green, serrated, ovate lanceolate leaves branch out from the stem and grow up to 5 inches long. Leaves resemble elm tree leaves, as the common name would suggest. Both bees and butterflies enjoy the pollen from this plant, so count on it attracting them to the garden. Perennial, part sun or shade, medium to medium dry soil, grows 3 feet tall, blooms July, August, September, and October, yellow flowers. This is another one that I suspect I have already volunteered in my yard, but I am going to grow this one from seed so that I can compare to the one that I already have volunteered. Thermopsis carolinea, Blue Ridge buckbean. This thermopsis is native to the East Coast. Thermopsis carolinea is typically found in open meadows, prairies, woodland edges, and fields. It is closely related to the Baptisia species. Another commonly used scientific name is Thermopsis viliosa. This plant prefers full sun and well-drained soils. The bright yellow flowers resemble those of wild lupin and other lupin species. These flowers attract bees and butterflies. It has an extremely sturdy taproot that often needs a hatchet to cut. Perennial. Full sun to part sun, medium to medium dry and dry soil. 4 feet tall, blooms May and June, flowers are yellow. I have sort of a foggy memory of this plant from my childhood, and I think nostalgia is maybe what has me trying to grow it this year. I got a lot of yellow plants this year. I'm really proud of myself for all those yellows. This one's a really tall, striking plant, and I think that it's going to go out on my street front in a nice prime spot. And with that, my friends, this seed haul comes to an end. I wanted to say again that the photos that I've used here are from Prairie Moon Nursery's website. That's also where I got most of the range maps. Um, you can find range maps in other places too, but I really like the sort of county by county breakdown of these ones. Um, Also, a lot of the descriptions are pulled directly from the website, so I just wanted to be able to share with you the information that I was looking at while I was trying to figure out which plants I wanted to buy, which seeds I wanted to buy this year. I hope that you have enjoyed these selections. I hope that something strikes your fancy. I hope that you are excited to see them in my garden, and we'll come back and watch um, all of these plants turn into little tiny seedlings. All of these seeds turn into little tiny seedlings, and then bigger plants, and then watch me plant them out as small plants in the ground. As I do from year to year. Uh, in time, we will get to see them all flower, and I hope that you are still here with me in order to see my garden grow and change over time, as gardens do. I will again leave you with this fireplace, and thank you for joining me today. Bye.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum 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 bum.